Hi, I'm Jen Holtz, Associate State Director for Outreach at AARP Maryland. We are working to support all caregivers of children during the pandemic by continuing our Lunch and Learn interviews through the rest of 2021. Our goal is to provide you with practical ideas, tips, tools, and resources for distance learning and helping kids thrive during the pandemic. With schools back in session, whether virtual or in person or a hybrid of both, keep joining us over the coming weeks to hear from guests with information about helping our kids to do their best. Please also visit our website, aarp.org/MD, to learn more about the resources in our state to support you and your kids during this unprecedented time. Today, we are joined by Elise Jordan, a retired special education teacher who is passionate about preparing all young adults, whether educationally disabled or otherwise, for career and financial independence. Elise has been keeping tabs on what is working and what is not for kids and parents doing their best to facilitate virtual learning. Elise, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Let's first talk about students as individuals. With struggles like simply trying to get remote assignments completed at home or trying to arrive at Zoom meetings on time while sharing devices with other siblings, we don't want to lose sight of the individual. Why should students focus on things like their own personal interests, their learning and working styles, their aptitudes and abilities, and their values when they're thinking about their career or higher education choices?
Well, right now the students are doing lessons, reading, math, things like that. But I think the student is also a whole person. And you have to take into account their personality and their learning styles and things that are important to them. Because if they're getting an education virtually and they don't see the connection between who they are and what the lesson is, then it sort of becomes, I don't want to say defeating, but it's not as stimulating and motivating as if it's more attuned to who they are. And parents can help in this. They can show the student that yes, this does have something to do with you, but it takes a village to do this. The
Absolutely.
virtual lessons alone are not going to totally motivate today's learner.
Absolutely. So thank you, Elise. And do you have any pointers around logistics? What exactly can make a young person's learning experience right now just a little less stressful during the day? For example, what if you have a child that's easily distracted?
Well, I'm actually in a situation where I'm helping to monitor three students in a family where their mom is a teacher and actually teaching the whole day while these three students are learning. And the one I'm focusing on is the third grade boy. And the one thing I see, because every time I go to the house, there are modifications to his learning space. And that's okay because they're finding out what works and what's not working as well. So what I'm seeing is where his computer desk is. It is by a window, and they've put up a screen in the window so that when he looks ahead, he's looking at, not the garden and the squirrels. He's looking at a screen that takes out all that extra stimulation. And he also has there on his desk a very nice schedule, all printed up for him to see. And they've put in, because he's a little on the antsy side, they put in a band under his chair where he can put his feet and he can move them, and that he feels like it's sort of a foot fidget instead of something he's doing with his hands or his head. And it's a good tactic. But
That's a great idea.
I personally, and I'm looking at another student out in Portland, one thing I think parents aren't understanding is that the students' feet should actually hit the ground. Because if you think they put them in a chair, a dining room chair or something that they have, but if they were in school, they'd be at a desk with a chair their feet are touching the ground. And I don't think parents think about that.
That is definitely something I've not thought about, and I will now with my kindergartner. He certainly is not comfortably sitting at our dining room table. I think he's doing the best he can, but we should try to simulate rather the classroom environment. So that's great advice.
Yeah.
So you alluded to this a little bit earlier, but Elise, how important is the parent's role in the child's learning? What is their responsibility in terms of actively tracking their child's schoolwork and guiding them through assignments that the child may perceive as pointless?
Well, one thing I noticed that I didn't realize for 3 weeks as I was monitoring this one little boy is that he was looking at assignments on the screen and the teacher was putting up a PowerPoint and he was supposed to copy it down and he couldn't keep up. It wasn't fast enough. And then I realized that my last meeting with them that there actually was a whole, I think they call it a canvas of these PowerPoints that a parent could download by, on their own time and share that with the student. And I didn't realize that that was available. So here, my impression of things going on the screen were moving too quickly. If the parent has the ability to print things out, they actually could go back and print out some of these PowerPoints and screenshots. And then that would help the student because I think as a third grader, they just can't copy something off the screen.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. So, where do you suggest parents and caregivers of kids can find some additional learning resources and assessment tools to better understand their children as the whole person and to also help guide them through this brand new way of learning?
Well, I noticed that in some instances, I'm sorry, that schools are sending home actual worksheets that help the students, and other schools just give the students open composition books, and they're supposed to fill it with something, and it's just not very stimulating if your handwriting isn't neat or you fall behind. So for parents that aren't receiving anything from the school, I would actually suggest you go online and find some workbooks, the good old-fashioned workbook, because they're usually colorful and the student can do it on their own time and it's not about something they're doing in front of a screen.
Mhm.
I'm still an old-fashioned sort of paper and pencil person. And kids, and I'm seeing that there's students that from another family that like to doodle while they're on the screen. So they really do like to write and use color, and different
Absolutely.
and other materials other than what the school is offering you. It's up to you
Sure.
to
Especially
advocate
with
for your to
with
advocate.
the younger kids, I would imagine too, it would help just with general motor skills, and just being able to practice those motions and not be staring at the screen. So, yeah, that's great advice. Thank you, Elise. So, this has been great. Thank you so much. Your passion for helping individual students focus on their personal aptitude is really inspiring. And it's also a great reminder that this different educational experience is very personal for each of our kids. So we need to
Yes.
focus on helping them get the most out of this new way of learning. So thank you again for being here and conducting this interview with us. All right, folks, please tune in every other Wednesday through December for tips and tools on caring for your children during the pandemic. Our next Lunch and Learn interview will take place October 21st at 12 p.m. And thank you.
Thank you.